I'm not gonna lie, I am way disappointed in how much I read in the months of June and July. A lot of the months were spent on a trip in Texas visiting family, and I always overestimate how much I'm going to read on trips where I'm visiting friends and family. In June and July, I only read 7 books. Oops. Let's talk about them. So the first book that I read in June was Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. Now, I'm not gonna go too in-depth in all of these books because all of these books that I read in June and July are featured in their own reading vlogs. This was maybe like my 3rd time reading Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. But one thing I said in my reading vlog was that I was very surprised at how much action was in this book. Like, I feel like most of the time when you have sort of action-oriented books, there still really isn't that much action featured throughout the book, whereas this book is like constant action, but the plot is not lacking as a result of it. It's a very delicate balance between like the plot but also the action of fantasy series like this, and I feel like Rick Riordan really quickly like found very good balance, and it just made the reading experience that much more fun. And then the second book and last book I read in June was Percy Jackson, The Sea of Monsters. Now here's when we are introduced to Tyson, and sweet baby Angel, love him. He's like one of my favorite characters in the whole book. Like, he's just so innocent and like sees the world through such a literal lens, and it is just so humorous and like sweet to see. I had zero idea what was going to happen in the rest of the series, like going into this book, and I think it's crazy that the series has been out for so long and it hasn't been spoiled for me. I think that might start to shift as the Percy Jackson TV series starts to come out, because I think the movies and film adaptations are really where these big book series start to get spoiled for people. And so I think I picked the perfect time to read this, because I think the season based on this book is the next one to come out, and I think it comes out pretty soon. I really liked this book, and I gave them both a 4 stars. Then on to the books I read in July. If you're not catching on, I read The Titan's Curse. I think this one was where the characters started to get a little bit interesting. We got some really complex characters introduced in this book specifically. I think this is a middle grade book series. Like, the depth and complexity of the issues that some of the characters are dealing with in their life is kind of not something you would expect from a middle grade book series. Like, middle grade, you'd think like maybe like 5th grade through like 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. So I feel like it's so tempting for like authors of middle grade books to just kind of like be quite surface level with their characters, you know, because it is like for a younger audience. But I feel like Rick Riordan really gave these characters like real life problems in a way that I think a lot of like kids and a lot of people in general can relate to, and I think that's just like so special, and it just shows how much of a good author he is. Gave this one a 4 stars as well. And then I'm sure you're really wondering what book I read next. The Battle of the Labyrinth. I was gonna say I think maybe this one was my favorite of the series, but I don't know. The 5th one was pretty good too. This one takes place in a maze, and I love mazes, I love puzzles, and so that's kind of why I was really intrigued by this one in particular. I don't really know what else to say about this one, which is funny because I just said this one might be my favorite in the series, and I'm like, what do I say? I don't know. I gave this one a 4.5 stars and I can't even remember why. The Problems of an Obsessive Reader. And then of course, you know, I read Percy Jackson, The Last Olympian. I loved the part where you got to see why this book is called The Last Olympian. I really loved that little moment. It was so cute, so special. You have to say this one is my favorite book in the series. I did give this a 5 stars, so obviously it's my favorite. And I just think that this was a really well done conclusion. I feel like so often in fantasy series that have like gone on for so long, you get to the end and you're like, wait a minute, that's the end? Like, I want more of the book, of the series, of these characters. And I feel like you did get a little bit of this, but not like so much so that you didn't end up liking the rest of the book. And I think this is probably like the longest like battle scene I have ever read in a book. Basically, like the entire book is just like one continuous battle scene. And I had so much fun reading this series because it's another one of those series that just paints such a clear picture in my mind of what's happening. So it's like I'm watching a movie of what's happening. And it was just like such an immersive experience reading this, and I 100% would do it again. I do want to read more of Rick Riordan's writing, And after I finished this one, I was told there are 2 more sequel series to this. So, might have to make another reading vlog reading those. And then the next book that I read was The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. It had been quite a while since I read Truly Devious, the first book in this series. And so it took me a little bit to kind of like get into this book and remember what all was going on. Now, the main character in this book, Stevie, I really like Stevie. I feel like at first glance you might get the impression that she's kind of an unlikable character, and maybe she is, but also I find her very relatable. Maybe that's why I like her. Maybe if you don't relate to her, she is an unlikable character. I really relate to Stevie and how she interacts with the world and how she views the world and other people. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, that's like just like me. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I gave this book 4 stars. The last book that I read in July was Scarlet, which is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. And I will definitely say that this is my favorite book in the Lunar Chronicles so far. I liked it so much more than I liked Cinder, and I really liked Cinder. I gave this one 4 stars, which I feel like is also what I gave Cinder, but I did really like this one so much more. The romance in this book, love it. It is dual POV, following like parallel timelines. So that means Scarlet, we're following her story half of the book. And so the fact that in half of a book, Marissa Meyer was able to get me to fall in love with Scarlet and the other characters in her story, that's impressive. Authors who are able to get me to really care about characters and their story in a shorter amount of time, like in say a novella or a shorter book or half of a regular length novel, I am just like so impressed that they're able to do that, you know, because sometimes I read books and I spend the whole book reading about 2 characters, and I get to the end and I'm like, I literally couldn't care less what happens to you people right now. But then some authors are able to do it in like a couple of chapters. But I really loved it, and I'm so excited to see those characters in the rest of the series. Those are the 7 books that I read in the months of June and July. That is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. Comment down below your favorite book that you read in June and July, and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content in the future. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.